The European Union has been taking actions for many years to reduce the use of chemical plant protection products to protect the environment, human health and biodiversity. This policy is based on the precautionary principle, according to which if there is a reasonable suspicion that a given substance might be harmful, even if there is not full scientific evidence to support this suspicion, preventive measures can be taken. The EU pesticide regulation regulates the placing of plant protection products on the market. It requires a thorough risk assessment for human health and the environment before approving each active ingredient. The principle of substitution has been introduced under this regulation, which encourages the replacement of the most dangerous pesticides with less harmful alternatives. All this is aimed at achieving sustainable use of pesticides in the European Union by reducing the risk of their impact on human health and the environment. It also promotes the use of alternative methods and techniques, such as shallow cultivation and mechanical ways of combating weeds. This approach promotes more sustainable farming practices by combining various methods of pest and diseases control, including mechanical ones, with limited and thoughtful use of pesticides. The European Union invests in research and innovation to develop and promote more sustainable plant protection methods, which are less dependent on chemical pesticides. Organic farming, which inherently limits or excludes the use of synthetic pesticides, is actively supported under the European Union's Common Agricultural Policy. As it doesn't use chemicals, there is no risk of creating herbicide-resistant weeds. Mechanical weed control is increasingly recommended, and it is easiest to perform it just after the harvest. The idea is as follows: quick and shallow cultivation to stimulate the germination of successive weeds and volunteer cereals, and reduce the use of herbicides and protect the environment. Shallow repeated cultivation that destroys weeds is justified by yet another fact: lower fuel consumption per hectare compared, for example, to a single pass with a disc harrow or a cultivator working at a depth of 15 centimeters. Such a solution, besides higher fuel demand, also causes the burial of weed seeds or volunteer cereals and their long germination, which often excludes further mechanical weed destruction treatments for which there may not be time. Ultra-shallow cultivation to combat weeds is an activity that is worth starting right after the harvest, regardless of the moisture conditions in the field. If it's dry, it will be more difficult to perform and less effective, but even after the first treatments, weeds and volunteer cereals will germinate. It is estimated that each subsequent shallow mechanical treatment stimulates the germination of a few to several dozen% of the seeds in the soil, depending primarily on moisture conditions. Therefore, by performing several post-harvest treatments, we are able to significantly reduce the soil seed bank capable of germination and being a source of weeds for crops. For shallow cultivation, we can use a standard disc harrow, but working it to a depth of, for example, 5 centimeters will be possible if the soil is moist. In dry conditions, this may not be possible, especially with lighter mounted machines. Large discs might not act aggressively enough on the soil and provide unsatisfactory weed stimulation for emergence. The promoted trend of ultra-shallow cultivation primarily includes mulching harrows, such as the Rolmako Spring Expert. It is used for distributing straw on the field, mixing the soil to a depth of 2-3 centimeters, and interrupting water evaporation. Thanks to its low power requirement, it is very efficient. Knife rollers such as TurboCut and ProCut are especially recommended for shredding largest post-harvest residues, for example after corn. They mix the soil to 2-4 centimeters and also have high work efficiency. If you have a tractor with a front 3-point hitch, you can attach a knife roller to it, and on the rare 3-point linkage, for example a disc harrow, that will mix the post-harvest residues with the soil. Disc harrows with wavy discs, for example Rolmako speed cutter with small diameter discs, rotate faster during operation than in a traditional disc harrow. This allows for more aggressive soil action at a shallower depth. It is best to perform each subsequent operation in ultra-shallow cultivation at a different angle to the previous one. This will allow for better distribution of the straw and residues in the field and cutting the entire stubble. Don't wait too long with subsequent operations so that weeds and volunteers don't grow too much. It will be harder to mix them with the soil, and additionally, they will draw water from it. Even 10-12 liters per square meter for every 10 centimeters of plant height. Mechanical weed control is also possible after establishing the crop. This is primarily suitable for cereals, but is also possible before the emergence of other species, such as legumes, corn, sunflower or potatoes. For this purpose, you can use, for example, a weed harrow or a rotary harrow. A weed harrow, such as Active Agro, has thinner tines than a mulching harrow, whose work is less intense, but sufficient to pull young weeds from the soil. It can be used to combat weeds, for example in cereals in the tillering phase, when the plants are tough and minimally susceptible to damage by the harrow. A rotary harrow, such as Matrix, has working elements in the form of stars, working at a maximum depth of 4 cm. The machine can be used for inter-row mechanical weeding, but also for leveling soil crusting. Similarly to a weed harrow, it can be used in the tillering phase of cereals. Mechanical weed control has become more popular in response to growing concerns about the excessive chemicalization of agriculture and the emergence of herbicide-resistant weeds. Mechanical methods are also beneficial for the environment and human health, as they do not rely on chemical plant protection products. Ultra-shallow cultivation and other techniques can help minimize the risk of weed infestation. The key to effective mechanical weed control is combining different techniques in response to the specific conditions of each field. It's also important to regularly monitor the field, to quickly respond to the appearance of weeds and adjust management practices as needed. EU requirements for farmers and cultivation techniques are moving towards eco-friendly actions. Do you like the content we publish? Do you want to explore the topic even more today? If so, we warmly invite you to visit our blog available at the link rolmako.com/blog. The main goal of Rolmako is to ensure your success in agriculture. We aim to provide you with as much valuable knowledge as possible about adjusting agronomic practices to different factors, such as soil type, climatic conditions, and the guidelines of the European Union's Common Agricultural Policy. Our articles are carefully crafted to provide you with comprehensive information and practical tips that will help you achieve optimal results in your agricultural activities. Don't wait any longer. Visit our blog now and deepen your knowledge, which will contribute to the development of your farm. And are you in your farms striving to reduce the use of chemical plant protection products? Do you think that devices such as weed harrows can effectively help in fighting weeds and reducing the costs associated with spraying? Let us know in the comments below the video. We are very curious about your opinions on the issues raised in this video.